Heyo Collective, welcome to Lucid Mirror Studio, and I hope everybody's Monday is going great. I have pulled some cards here. I did a pre-shuffle and pulled some energy cards. The first energy card I got is unspoken words. There is something you have left unsaid, truth that lingers in the air, heavy and unresolved. These words must find their voice, for they carry the power to liberate you and others. And then magic belief, the magic of belief. When you believe in magic of the universe, you activate portals beyond the reach of logic. Your energy expands and your vibration shifts, unlocking new dimensions of possibility and serendipity. So, I do have some feeling of someone holding back. Now, I'm looking at this pre-shuffle and I see that somebody, try as they may, they're not getting to the point of where they want to reach as far as in their legacy, life, relationships, friendships, careers, all that. And I think it's because you are moving, you're not grounding yourself, you're not moving in a manner that's going to ground a legacy for you. You know, this Knight of Wands, he's very passionate, he burns out quickly. So that's not the energy that you want to be putting forth into building a legacy. You want the celebrations, you want, the good times, everything working out, but you're also, not working behind it as far as giving the positive thoughts to it, giving the love and nurturing that your environment needs. You're already thinking that you're not going to get this victory, but you can totally manifest it. You just have to change your energy. And then we have this Two of Wands, and that's you in the cave looking out. You're planning and you're in thought. And you're probably thinking, like, how can I get out of this energy and, more towards something I can celebrate in my life, that my life can go better, be more positive, and have the things that, you feel you deserve. The Two of Wands is you taking that time to see what it is that you need to change within your energy to get this for you, because you haven't been giving, or you've been giving too much. But the energy definitely needs to change here. So let's see what is going on. So Spirit, what does a collective need to know? Your Spirit, what does a collective need to know? Your Spirit, what's the collective need to know? We got the Ace of Pentacles. We have the Four of Pentacles in reverse here. We have the Devil in reverse. Strength in reverse. Eight of Cups in reverse. The Wheel of Fortune in reverse. Five of Swords. Seven of Swords. Queen of Cups in reverse. And then we got the Six of Wands upright. So in the bottom we have the Sun. So this is, I'm telling you, I have just off the bat got that we need to illuminate the problem here. And I see a lot of stagnation here. There's a lot of reverse cards and a lot of swords, cups. So let's see what's going on. And so we got the Ace of Pentacles, excuse me. So let's clarify this Ace of Pentacles. Your spirit world, the collective. I need to know why this Ace of Pentacles. So you have the Ace of Pentacles, which is, you know, the universe trying to hand you financial stability, grounded stability. And that's what you were having problems with in the pre-shuffle. And a lot of that is because you're not listening to your higher self, your intuition. Your intuition will lead you to where you need to be, but you can't ignore it. But we get so caught up in the everyday mundane that, you know, we start just living life here on earth and forget that we have so much help and so much, you know, more to us. And I think that's kind of where you're stuck at here. You know, there is the High Priestess here, which, you know, you have the ability, you can, you know, see further into your situation, but, you know, the problem here is that I think you're just in thought too much. You're in your head too much. So we got the Four of Pentacles in reverse, which means you're not holding on so tightly now. You're willing to let go. You're willing to try. You're willing to get out there and put some effort forward to seeing if you can change all this. You know, there is the Knight of Cups, and I think you're starting to see that you have to now lead with more emotion than, you know, cynical thought or negative thought. You know, you need a more positive attitude. You need more, you know, to feed yourself more love. And I see you working hard here to get through these addictions, breaking free from maybe codependency or relationships that are stagnant, not going anywhere, trauma bonds, you know, drugs, alcohol, or just your vices, sex addictions, all this stuff. You're working really hard to move past these things. Let's clarify this Strength in reverse. I see that, you know, you don't feel like you have the strength. You might be burnt out from, you know, fighting an uphill battle and trying to figure out like where you need to go, and the strength is in reverse. So let's see why. Because you're not standing in your power. You're not standing as this leader that can, you know, dictate what is happening in your life. I feel like a lot of you may feel like life is happening to you, but once you step and flip this Emperor, that's you taking charge within your own life, taking the reins of your own life and making decisions for yourself, which would, when you step into this Emperor and flip it, you're going to flip strength too. But I feel there's a lot of self-doubt, a lot of want, but you are trapped in this cycle of, you know, a loop in your head that, you know, what can go wrong. So the possibilities here is walking away from all those addictions and things that bind you. You know, maybe you're leaving a relationship that didn't serve you. Maybe you're, you know, working on getting sober, or, you know, just all the things that, or even just stepping out of obsessing in your head about what can go wrong, what needs to change, or even that mentality of like, wow, you know, I'm so tired of people hurting me, and, you know, why do people suck, all this stuff, you know, that's just obsessing over negativity. But I see in the near future, you're still trying to figure out how to turn this Wheel of Fortune, which is the divine putting a pause to you and showing you that in the near future, things aren't going to move forward till you start tapping into that, you know, heart space, till you are able to start loving yourself and showing love in a way that is going to feed your soul and get you away from all this negative thinking, all this negative thoughts and environment that you may be in. Let's clarify that Page of Cups. Let's go a little deeper. Yeah, it's time. You know, maybe you felt like you've done wrong. Maybe you realized that, you know, you were taking more than giving, or that people were taking, you know, or that you were, you're just not moving here. And this justice is, you know, she's slicing through everything to balance it out. She is basically saying, like, the scales are too much on one side, we got to put some on the other side. So yeah, you're sitting here and you're in your head, you're wondering like what's going on, but it's not. It's time to get out of your head and start filling the other scale, and you're going to fill that other scale with emotions, with love, with feelings. You may be numb, maybe, yeah, you were drinking, doing drugs, or doing things to numb you out, to not address anything in life, to hide away, run away scared. And the best way that you were able to manage it were those vices. But I'm starting to see those vices aren't working for you anymore. You know, you're now left still empty, you know, still dealing with these issues that were never erased because you picked up, you know, things to distract you from them. So now it's time to start facing what you're not looking at. Start facing what it is that, you know, is numbing you. What is it that you're running from? What don't you want to feel? And those are things that you need to sit down and kind of go into thought, not avoid it, not, you know, distract yourself, but sit with yourself, sit in some nature, sit by some water, and just take some time for you. Have a you date. Have a date where you sit by like the lake, a pool, you know, go for a walk. But it's you and you. And this date is for you to dig deeper into yourself on what you want. Maybe life has been harsh to you and you haven't had people be there for you, or had, you know, friends to talk to or anything like that. But, you know, the divine's telling you that you can do this all within yourself, because you don't need people. You don't need these distractions. What you need is yourself, and the love that you feel for yourself needs to grow. I feel this person that I'm reading for is very hurt, very lost, and very, very wanting and willing to do something to change it, but that you don't know what. You know, you're putting in a lot of work, but the work is going to the air because you don't know exactly what you're supposed to be working on. And that's why I'm saying is take some time for yourself, you date, and listen to yourself. You know, if you need to cry, cry. If you need to scream, scream. If you need to, you know, just go at yourself for a minute and then apologize to yourself, or whatever you need to release. There's a release that needs to happen, because that first word, that first clarifier here for the energy was unspoken words. So I feel this person is holding a lot inside of them, and you're about to burst. Like, you can't internalize this forever. You'll get sick. You'll end up in depression and with anxiety, all these things if you hold this in. It's time to let it go. It's time to speak. So, you know, and your power is, you know, this win it all mentality, that me against the world. And I think that needs to change. I think you need to start realizing that, you know, there are people out here that love and care for you. And if you haven't found them yet, then, you know, it's time to branch out and try different things too. Find your tribe. you know, because you can bring people in if you get out of this mentality that it's you against the world. You know, once you start realizing that, you know, you don't have to close yourself off, that you don't have to be alone in everything to, you know, I think your energy is blocking anything coming in too, you know, like friendships or love or anything like that. I feel like if you have this negative wall, you know, people can't reach you. And in your environment, you know, you're walking around like almost like you're trying to be small and unnoticed. Like you're trying to go through this life just kind of, you know, coasting through it, not living it. Let's clarify the Seven of Swords. Yes. You know, the divine is shining a light on you that there is hope. There is abundance for you, and it will flow. It will flow steady. But you got to change the way you operate in this world. It could be that, you know, you've been hurt so much and you just shut down. But even in shutdown, I think you're feeling that loneliness and that separation from what you're supposed to be doing. The Queen of Cups is in reverse, which that is your hopes and fears, and I think you're just feeling like, you know, maybe you're never going to feel happy, or that, you know, good things are going to come to you, that you know, you've drained yourself into everybody else and everything else and nothing came from it. And you've become so cynical. You've become somebody that I don't think you wanted to become. I just think you've been hurt so badly in this life and felt left out, left behind, that you've done everything in your power to try to self-soothe, to heal yourself. You've tried everything but feeling, because I think you were hiding from the things that hurt you, that were done to you. All those things you need to start facing. And I think when you start facing them, you'll see that victory, because this was reversed before. I think once you start realizing that you can fill yourself with hope and love, it doesn't need to come from any outside source. You are the source. You are the one who will grow this, and it'll grow into something so beautiful that you will be, it'll take you, you know, by surprise, this magical belief. If you believe in the magic of the universe, you activate portals beyond the reach of logic. Your energy expands, your vibration shifts, unlocking new dimensions and possibility and serendipity. So speak up. Wake up. Realize that your victory is in your own hands. There's no need to close yourself off, isolate yourself, drink yourself to death, or you smoke yourself to death, or, you know, jump from one relationship to another to find these things that you're desperately looking for. Let's clarify the Six of Wands. Yeah, you're gonna have to, for me, this King of Swords is, you're gonna have to drop this whole, you know, you walking around with your sword and scaring everybody, you know, and I think before that was a defense mechanism, but it's not anymore. You don't need it anymore. You know, there's no need to have this tough outer core that you are, you don't let anybody near you. You don't want anybody around you. You don't want anybody's, BS. You just want to live your life. But you also want those connections. You want the connection of love and all that. But now I think you've worked so hard to block everything out. Now it's kind of hard to let that in. So now it's time to undo all that. That is the breaking the chains from this devil. That's undoing all those things that you learned that helped you get to this point in life. And maybe it helped you survive and stay in this world. But the divine is saying you don't need to do that anymore. The divine is saying if you just start putting yourself out there little by little, it doesn't have to be like grand gestures. That's why I say start with a date with yourself. Take yourself on a date and do it often, once a week. It's just you time and this is not isolation time. This is you time where it's like you learning yourself again. You learning what makes you happy again, listening to music, taking walks, looking at the sky, stargazing, that intimate time with yourself and the divine. And I think that will be very healing for you. It's time. I think you've been unhappy enough. I think you've suffered enough. I think you beat yourself up enough for past stuff that this isn't going, the work I feel that you need to do here, while you're struggling with these vices and stuff is to learn to love yourself and have that one-on-one time with yourself. And I think once you start listening to yourself, you'll go a lot deeper into your feelings and what it is you need and what is going to make you happy, and also find that strength within yourself. Build it little by little. Nobody says you're going to wake up one day and just be like, oh, I'm Superman. I feel everything, but I'm so strong. No, it's little by little. It's not going to happen overnight. You built a whole life where this was what shielded you from everybody else and everything else. So it's going to take some time for you to now start putting that guard down, put the swords down, and start, leading in your life with heart. Like, love yourself, be kind to yourself. If you got to live with yourself, why not be the best, you can be, so that you have all this ugliness in the outside world. Let the inner you be your sanctuary. Let that start being love. And I think once you start feeling better and that grows, that is going to shine through with people, with your surroundings and everything. But, if things happen to you in your life that, you've held in, you don't have to hold it in. You can go talk to people. You can, even release this into the divine. Sometimes I think with our darkness, we've lived so much pain that sometimes we just stuff it inside of us. And sometimes we may even forget, or we may not even pay attention to it enough to even know what that means to us. And so I think that this is not like you go out and you tell people or anything. I think this is you and what your energy and what you need to do for yourself is, you're hiding from the world, but you don't need to hide from yourself. And I think once you start honoring yourself and speaking up and, talking to yourself and realizing a lot about yourself, everything else will start flowing. You have the star here in your environment. I think once you break free from the walls you built up around yourself, everything will start flowing for you. And I don't feel it's going to be something that you regret. I feel like this is going to be something that you're going to be happy you did for yourself. So let's end this with some cosmic energy. All right, Spirit, what does the collective need to know to end this? What advice do we have for the collective? All right, we'll take 2. So the first one is divinity. Every movement is filled with divinity. Cherish it. And that's where I'm saying, you know, the divine puts you on hold here because the divine wants you to pay attention to you and your feelings and what you think and want and all that stuff. And I think this is a time for you and the divine to work together as far as in your healing process. Lean towards, you know, the divine and yourself. You have the answers, and your higher self, you have that here. The divine will give you the downloads and everything you need. You don't need outside sources. You don't need devices. You don't need any of that. You need yourself. You can't abandon yourself. And the divine's always with you, ready to help. You just got to ask them for help. Light. Light dispels darkness. Keep your inner light shining. Yes. I think you've been in the dark long enough. And now it's time to shine. This star can walk through the darkness. This star can walk through the darkness and still be able to see everything. Because it's not dependent on the brightness of the moon or the sun. It is dependent on the light that it's shining outside of itself. You are the light, and I think you aren't feeding that light. That light is sitting there, and the more love you throw on it, the more, you know, forgiveness, understanding, and everything you throw on this light, it starts building and becomes this beautiful flame, and you start radiating that. So I think this is a beautiful reading. I hope this helps a lot of people, because I feel you're in the dark, but you are light. And so start feeding that. All right, collective, I am so happy to be able to share that message with you, and I hope it resonates with you guys, and I hope you take yourself on a date. And if you do, let me know what you do and what you find out. All right, you guys have a great day. You take care.